Let's talk about one of the absolute pillars of India's economy, the textile industry. I mean, this thing is a global giant. It clothes the world, and it's a huge part of the country's identity. But there's a catch. This giant is actually struggling, and we're going to figure out exactly why. To really get a sense of the scale here, you just need to look at this one number, 4.5 crore. That's 45 million people. That's more than the entire population of a lot of countries. So this isn't just an industry, it is a lifeline for millions upon millions of families all across India.
So that's the big puzzle, right? If this industry is so massive, so incredibly important, why is it in trouble? What is holding this global giant back? Let's dig in and find out.
Okay, first things first. We need to appreciate just how deeply textiles are woven into the very fabric of India's economy.
This chart right here really shows you the industry's economic muscle. Just think about this for a second. It makes up 2.3% of the entire country's GDP. It's responsible for 13% of all industrial production, and it represents a huge 12% of India's total exports. See, this is not just another sector. It's a foundational piece of the whole economy.
And when you zoom out and look at the global picture, wow. India is the world's #1 producer of jute, it's #2 for cotton, and #2 for man-made fibers as well. So when it comes to the raw materials, India is an absolute powerhouse. The question is, where does all this stuff go?
Well, a massive chunk of it gets exported. In fact, ready-made garments and cotton products, together they make up more than 3/4 of all textile exports. These are the two things that are putting Indian textiles into closets and homes all around the world.
All right, so we've seen the strength, we've seen the scale. But now, let's look at where the threads start to fray a little bit. It's time to unravel the challenges that are holding this giant back.
And the numbers here are pretty stark. Between fiscal years 20 and 24, the overall textile sector actually shrunk by almost 2% every year. But the really worrying part, look at the apparel sector, the finished clothes. That contracted by a massive 8.2% annually. This isn't just a slowdown. It's a major step backward.
So what's behind this? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is global trade. You've got competitors like Vietnam and Bangladesh who have free trade agreements with huge markets like the US and the EU. You can think of it like an express lane for their products. They pay almost no import tax. India, on the other hand, doesn't have those same deals, so its exports get hit with higher taxes, making them more expensive right out of the gate. But you know what? The problem actually starts way before the goods even leave the country. Because of certain government policies, like quality control orders, some of the most essential raw materials are way more expensive inside India. Polyester fiber is 1/3 more expensive than it is in China. Viscose is over 14% pricier. This just inflates the cost of everything from the very beginning.
And here's the result of all that. You get this really fragmented supply chain. You've got spinning happening in one state, weaving in another, and stitching in a third. It's kind of a logistical nightmare that just adds more time and more cost at every single step, making it that much harder for India to compete on the world stage.
And if that wasn't enough, there's a whole new wave of pressure coming from sustainability. You've got global brands demanding greener and greener production methods. The EU has new regulations that affect nearly 1/5 of India's textile exports. And let's be real, with the industry being responsible for about 20% of the world's water pollution, this is a challenge that simply cannot be ignored.
Okay, that is a lot of challenges, for sure. But it's not all doom and gloom. There is a path forward. So let's take a look at how India can start stitching together a new, much more competitive future.
A really key part of the solution is this idea right here, vertically integrated textile parks. Imagine these giant all-in-one hubs where literally everything happens in one place. From the raw fiber coming in one door, to the spinning, the weaving, and finally the finished shirt or dress going out the other. This is the perfect antidote to that fragmented supply chain we were just talking about. It's designed to just slash costs and time.
So the new strategy really rests on 4 main pillars. First, you got to strengthen those supply chains to get costs down. Second, you have to leverage the country's incredible workforce with better training. Third, it's about reforming policies to create a level playing field. And finally, you have to embrace sustainability and turn it from a challenge into a real competitive advantage.
And look, these are not just vague ideas. The actions are very specific. We're talking about reassessing those quality control rules to bring down the cost of raw materials. It means aggressively going after those trade deals with the EU and the US to open up markets. And, crucially, it means building more of these massive integrated textile hubs. They're called PMMITRA parks, to create jobs right where they're needed most.
Now to wrap this up, let's just zoom out and look at one of the biggest global trends happening right now. The world has a massive waste problem, and a lot of it is driven by fast fashion. By 2030, we're on track to generate almost 150 million tons of textile waste. That is a truly staggering figure.
And this brings us to one last really interesting thought. As the world gets more and more desperate to solve this waste crisis, the demand for recycled textiles is just skyrocketing. So the question is, could India, with its huge textile infrastructure and all its expertise, actually turn this massive global problem into its next great economic opportunity? That might just be the thread that leads to a whole new future.